Hey everybody, I'm back. It's been a few days or weeks that I've last made a recording, but as I explained in my first videos, I do have a full-time job that requires more of my time. Otherwise, I don't get paid to do what I want to do in order to get where I want to be. So I hope you found use in the previous videos that I've made. But yeah, I've been traveling quite a bit over the last 2 weeks. Some very exciting stuff has taken place. I'm very happy to say that I've received very good validations in terms of the hard work that I've put in so far since the beginning of this year, which is what one of my mindsets were set at in the beginning of this year, is to really exceed within my existing career. And what happened on Thursday last week, it was very surreal. Although it was very short-lived, and I'm still trying to figure out why that feeling of success, of achievement and so forth was so short-lived, but it's something that I can still take away and make it my own, and that I have worked on it. As you can see also, as I promised, I'm gradually taking the steps to start improving further on my video recording techniques and my video editing skills and sound quality and so forth. But this is a learning journey that I'm going through, and you are witnessing it by, in firsthand, in terms of the steps I'm taking on the journey I'm undergoing myself through this whole process. And hopefully later down the years, I can go back and look back at it. And again, as I said, the purpose of recording this is to document my own personal journey through my personal development, and also in becoming a life coach, so that when I do explain to my clients the processes that they need to follow, it's not just a mere suggestion that I'm making, but it's actual practical steps that I've taken myself that has yielded results that has also brought me to where I was and am today. There's two things I'm going to be talking about through in this video. The first section is, through the process of journaling, I've become a lot more aware with regards to how I'm feeling, how am I currently perceiving this personal journey. And then the second part is also some interesting information that I've also been listening to, and that I've also taken to heart and starting to apply, which makes sense at the end of the day. If I think back in terms of my past journeys throughout the years and so forth, especially when I first became aware of this thing about the law of attraction. But let me talk about the first section. The first section is the sense of discouragement. Now, when I embarked on this journey, let's say about 2 months ago in April, May, and I really put my effort into this, you get this warm, fuzzy feeling like, yes, you can do this. You've got this positive mindset. As if everything clicks. You've got your goal set and your task set, and you're going through that and that and that and that. However, one thing I have noticed is it's all fine and well to try and live in your vision and your future state that where you envision yourself and be congruent with it, as Brendan Burchard would have mentioned. But your real life, the external environment in which you find yourself, does still have an effect on you on a day-by-day basis. Car breaks down. You've got rent and tax, your bills to pay. You have arguments with close ones or friends, or whichever way. Things go not according to the way you planned at work. Now, you can have this positive mindset, nothing can go wrong, you're strong and everything else, but you still get affected on it. This primal brain of yours still reacts in a stressful situation. Your cortisol level goes up. And you find that consecutively being exposed to these kind of situations and so forth over a period of a day or two, whichever way, you do become, I would say, discouraged. Now, what I mean about discouragement, it's that feeling of, you know what to do, but then you don't really feel like it. And it's not procrastination. Procrastination is more of a situation where you're trying to not do something that you know you have to do, but you're doing it because you want to avoid the feeling or the pain or whatever it's associated with. Discouragement is very much like you don't really give a damn about anything. It's not quite as low to the point of what depression is, where depression, I personally found that depression is a sense of self-sabotage. You know what you're doing is self-sabotaging, but you just really don't give a damn. The discouragement is I found over the last week or two journaling, I found that a lot more doubt is popping up in my mind. I'm asking myself questions. Is this worth it? What I'm doing now, is this going to be, will this pay off? Is it all worth it? What's the use? How can I apply this? And so on and so on and so on. But when I had a chat with one of my therapists, I explained it to her. It feels like the ground on which you stand, all right? If I can explain it, the ground on which you stand, you think you've got a firm grounding on the ground that you stand, but it's as if the ground shifts beneath you, or it feels like you're very much aware of yourself, but there's movement within yourself, right? Okay, so without turning it into a zombie movie where you're moving within your flesh and kind of thing, but if you understand what I'm trying to say, is it's you feel like there's movement within you, but something's out of alignment. You're not quite sure what it is. Now, upon reflecting on it and going back to videos and coaching material and that kind of stuff, you get to a realization that it's when you, well, I call it a quote, let me just rephrase. I call it a quote, is that when you have that feeling, I say that I see it as when you are aligned with what the universe has got intended for you with your future self. And that's when you move forward. That's the moment when you realize that you're starting to discard the old ways of doing things, your old life, and you're snapping into alignment with what you intend to do with your future life, your future vision. The trick here that I'm trying to figure out here, or what I'm trying to figure out, is how do you then, when you snap into that, is how you keep that momentum. Now, everything that I'm watching on or researching on, it all comes down to goal settings, your action items, where's your vision, doing your morning visualization, where you see yourself in the next year or two, whatever. What is it you're trying to achieve ultimately, and then work back on that. If you constantly maintain that mind frame, then whatever you do during the day should be congruent with that future view. But getting back to the discouragement thing, so when life does throw you a curveball, when things do not go the way you wanted, it's a very tough, and I find it myself recently as very tough. You think you're unstoppable, but you're not. But it's when you think of it and you are aware of what your thoughts are, that's where the challenge comes, because you really have to run yourself in and you really have to master your thoughts. And I'm not perfect. I do struggle with it, and this is now, like as I said, a couple of weeks down the line, and this is a challenge for me. But that's why I'm documenting this, so you know everybody who else can relate that with me can understand what I'm saying. But I also, one of the other reasons why I'm going into this life coaching side of things is that my wife belongs to a Facebook group which is called The Village. And obviously, there's the saying that it takes a village to raise a child. And this group is predominantly mothers, single mothers or parents who have teenagers and so forth, but they need help. Or a good case scenario, for example, is a single mother sits with a teenager boy, a very young boy about to enter into the adulthood, finishing school and so forth. But because of the lack of the father in that person's life, there is no real a source or role model that can show him how to interact with the world, how to socialize in the right way without being negatively affected by other motivators or other speakers out there that we all know, that has got about the alpha male, and who promotes young men to be bastards, and to be these guys that mistreats women and that kind of stuff. And she told me about this, and that's why I really became interested in wanting to do this kind of life coaching, also recording this. So what I want to say is, especially when you get to the point where you're approaching your end of your school career and you're moving to college or university, whichever way, the biggest daunting thought is, what am I going to do after school? If you do not yet have a clear idea as to what you want to do with your life, where you want to be, in the next 5 years, what kind of work you want to do in the next 5 years, or what your passion is, it can be a very daunting task. So this is also aimed towards those individuals, those young individuals, to say, look, regardless of your age, regardless of what work you do, clear goal settings is very important only if you have clarity on where you want to be in your life. If you want to be an aspiring musician, fantastic. If you want to be a painter, or if you want to be a successful entrepreneur making millions and millions of dollars or rands, fantastic. Envision that, but then work yourself back through your goal settings in terms of finding out what are your weak spots that you need to work on. What is required to get yourself there? There's no quick, rich thing unless you won the lotto. And I wish you all the best of luck and congratulations if that's the case. But John Ron said that if you take all of the money in the world and you divide it equally amongst everybody on the globe, within a short span of time, the same people will have the same money again where it started. You have to have that right mindset in order to achieve what you want to achieve. Or if you won the money or the lotto and you've become a millionaire, you need to have a millionaire mindset. Because otherwise you're going to squander and just spend the money, because that's how you've been programmed to do. So that's discouragement. And yeah, I know there's not a quick fix. And if you go look at all of the other motivational speakers and coaches and so forth, there is no quick fix. But you have to have a daily routine and plan, daily envisioning where you want to be, look at your goals, look at your action plans, and just work through it and push through. And that's something that I keep on saying to myself in my journals. You push through, just keep on pushing. And that brings me to the next topic that I want to discuss. Everybody knows about the law of attraction. I became aware of the law of attraction back in 2008, and I thought, hey, this is life-changing. I mean, you just have to change your mindset, envision where you want to be intentional, and just receive, and the world's going to change. When I was at that stage of my life, it did work because I was in a very negative state of in my life. I was almost, well, I can basically say I was financially stuffed. I was living month to month, and I could not get through certain months if it was not for the kind help of my parents and my friends and everything else. And that's not a proud moment of my life, but I've learned through it. And then that's the changing. I'm in my life. That's when I started. That I decided never again I'm going to be like this ever. But that teachings of the law of attraction about your positive mindset, receive, and so forth, that did help me, because it did really bring me out of that rut and that negative thinking and that spiral downwards as such. However, when you do think things go well, and I mean, I did then find a full-time job, my financial situation started improving, and subsequently, because of that, I became, I was able to move overseas. I worked overseas for about a year, which at that time I've never been overseas. I didn't even have a passport at the time when I was offered that position or that work. So a lot of change, and I thought, wow, this is awesome, and things are really looking up, and you start to forget in terms of where you're coming from. So again, gratitude is also quite an important thing to take note of. But then you go back to your normal life and so forth. And one of the interesting things that I've learned also by watching other material is that there's two sides of this law of attraction. You've got clear intention, positive mindset, gratitude, and expect things will drop in your lap, the universe will provide in line, and so forth. But that's not always the case. The flip side to it is that it takes action. And that's something that I found that I was missing all these years, is why wasn't things happening as quickly as I wanted? It's because you have to take action in order to get where you want to be or what you want. And it's when you take action and start putting in the work, that's where things do start to change. One of the big steps that I've taken myself, other than starting recording my journey, documenting my journey, and journaling and so forth, I've also taken it upon me to start thinking of, well, if I don't yet, let's say, for example, have a successful client base as a life coach, all right, maybe that will be different in the next couple of years down the line when everybody views this video again. But how can I apply what I'm learning now to a group of people that can benefit from this regardless? I've got nothing to lose other than volunteering my time and the skills I'm learning. And the recipients of my time can definitely benefit from this. So I've decided to volunteer my time to a non-governmental organization that provides personal development programs for individuals that want to uplift their lives and so forth. And so far, I've been reaching out to a couple of individuals. Nothing yet has come from it. But the point I want to make is I've taken a step. I would not necessarily, if I think about of myself maybe 4 or 5 months ago, that's something that would never have crossed my mind to do. But I've done it. And the next challenge, the crazy thing I've decided to do as well, is I've set myself a goal for 2027 to organize a motivational seminar. Not necessarily me being the keynote speaker. Well, that would be ideal and something to aim for. But then the realism in me says that, or the realist in me says no. What? But you see, that's the process that's going on in your head, and I'm thinking out loud about this. But I set myself to organize a motivational event for 2027 with a keynote speaker, an international keynote speaker, and I've got no freaking clue what to do, how to do it, how it's going to work out, and so forth. But one of the other things that I do use is I'm very supportive of you applying AI as a tool in your workflow. And I have found that AI is becoming quite very useful in the sense of guidance. If you understand what I'm saying, sometimes you do find yourself like, if I don't know what to do, some say it makes AI is going to make people dumber and reduce their critical thinking skills. But in hindsight, I find it enhances. If you have an idea, it can help you just unpack that idea with a couple of options for you to consider. At the end of the day, it's still up to you to act on it. So I've applied that, and I've reached out to an international booking agent, and so far I've been conversing with this individual. I am incredibly anxious about this because of the sheer budget that we're talking about in dollars. And yeah, but on the one side, I'm excited because I would never have thought of doing something like this, but I've put my mind to it and I've taken those steps. I'm gradually chipping away on it. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if I look back on this date, having announced this in 2 years' time and so forth, what the end results would be. But the point I want to make is, got the law of attraction. You can put all the best intention out there and want, and you will receive, but you still have to act on it. So having said that, this is my latest edition of the video. This is documenting my actual journey through my own personal development into becoming a life coach. But there is hope that this will reach someone out there that's watching this, and that it might have some a positive contribution to that. And I would love to hear your comments to that. So if you click on the subscribe button, please keep in touch. Give me your comments, constructive feedback. We're all in this same journey of personal growth and learning and so forth. So let's help each other out here. And I hope you have a fantastic couple of days until I speak to you again in the next video.